The success of each person is a long and intriguing story. Some are born into wealth and privilege, but those who rise from nothing deserve our greatest respect and admiration. 15 years ago, a businessman traveled to the city for work. After completing his meetings with partners, he decided to buy some gifts for his colleagues at a shopping mall. Typically, the businessman would carry some spare change, as he often encountered beggars, particularly children, in shopping areas. Giving them a few coins made him feel happier and more confident. Hey, amazing viewers! If you enjoy these stories, please hit that subscribe button. It's free and means so much to me. Your support helps me inspire more people. Thank you for being part of this journey. On that day, as usual, he handed out some coins to the group of young beggars. Among them was a skinny boy who caught the businessman's attention. The boy, around 13 or 14 years old, appeared frail, holding a sign instead of a bowl for collecting money like the other children. Dressed in old but clean clothes with neatly cut hair, he stood out. One side of his sign read Shoeshiner, while the other said, "I want to be a shoe shiner. Please help me buy a shoe shining kit." Curious about this difference, the businessman approached the boy and asked how much he needed for the kit. "I need $125, the boy replied. "I have to buy a professional kit that includes a chair, polish, cloth, brushes, and more than 10 types of shoe creams. Without $125, I can't buy it." The businessman asked how much money the boy had. Without hesitation, the boy answered, "I have $35. I still need $90. The businessman observed the boy closely, verifying that he was genuine and not trying to deceive him. He took $90 out of his pocket and handed it to the boy, saying, "Consider this $90 an investment, but I have a condition. From the moment you take my money, we are partners. I'll be here for 5 days, and during that time, you must not only pay me back $90, but also an additional $1 as interest. If you agree, you'll have the money." The boy joyfully looked at the businessman, nodding in agreement. He explained that he was in 6th grade, and after school, he took care of cows and goats and helped with farming to support his mother. He excelled in his studies, always ranking in the top 3 of his class. He said, "My parents can't afford my school fees, so I want to earn some extra money whenever I can." The businessman admired the boy and took him to buy the shoe shining kit. Afterward, the boy excitedly carried the kit toward the shopping mall to attract customers. The businessman shook his head and said, "As your partner, it's my duty to remind you where to set up shop. There's a free shoe cleaning machine in the mall, and many people know about it." After considering, the boy asked, "Can I set up at the hotel across the street?" The businessman figured that in a city bustling with tourists, many would likely need their shoes cleaned before heading out in the morning. So he agreed. The boy hugged his kit and went to the hotel, positioning himself near the entrance. Looking around, he saw no one and said to the businessman, "Why don't you be my first customer? Consider it my way of paying you back $1. The businessman laughed heartily. The boy was clever, trying to clean his shoes for free. He sat on the shoe shining chair and said, "If you don't do a good job, then it means you're not really the best at this. I would end up investing in someone who isn't honest, which would be a failed investment on my part." The boy shook his head, insisting he was indeed the best, adding, "I practiced shoe shining at home for a month. You see, very few people wear shoes in my village, so I had to go door to door asking them to let me shine their shoes." A few minutes later, as the businessman admired his now shiny shoes, he nodded in satisfaction. He took out a red pen and wrote the best on both of the boy's cheeks, delighting him. Just then a vehicle pulled up, and a group of tourists got out. The boy rushed over, holding up his kit, pointing to his face for the tourists to see, and exclaimed, "This is a special reward for my customers. Would you like to give it a try? I'll make your shoes shine like mirrors." He then began his busy work. On the second day, when the businessman stepped out of the hotel, the boy was there and excitedly shared that he had earned $50 the previous day, repaying the businessman $18. And after spending $3 on food, he had $29 left. The businessman patted the boy on the head, praising him for doing an excellent job. The boy also mentioned that he didn't sleep on the street that night. Instead, he got to sleep in a bed without paying. The businessman was curious and asked him why he didn't have to pay. The boy explained, "I helped the hotel owner shine more than a dozen pairs of shoes, so I still got to sleep for free tonight." 5 days passed quickly. Every day, the boy returned, paying the businessman $18, totaling exactly $90. The boy knew that the businessman was from the big city and was the director of a private company. He said, "After I finish school, I'll come find you." He then extended his small, still blackened with shoe polish hand for a handshake. The businessman reciprocated, gripping the boy's hand tightly and smiling. Time rushed by, and the businessman did not think of the shoe-shining boy from 15 years ago. Today, he was stressed about handling work decisions. His company had just faced a loss on a shipment and was struggling to manage cash flow while being pressured by partners. At that moment, his secretary entered and said, "A young gentleman would like to invite you to lunch today." Without looking up from the papers, the businessman asked, "Who is it?" The secretary pulled out a keychain from her pocket and placed it on the businessman's desk. Looking at the keychain, the businessman was stunned. It featured a small panda made of glass, inscribed with the words "The Best Businessman" on its chest. The businessman remembered the day 15 years ago when he had tucked that keychain into the boy's pocket as a keepsake. At noon, the businessman walked into a hotel and approached the table he had reserved. There, he saw a young man with an attractive and handsome face. The young man stood up, bowed his head to greet the businessman, and smiled. From his smile, the businessman recognized the boy's face from so many years ago. As they talked, the young man pulled out a check for $5 million and said he wanted to invest in the businessman's company, promising to recover both principal and interest in 5 years. This amount of $5 million USD felt like a life-saving rain shower for the businessman's struggling company. The boy, now a young man, looked at the businessman and said, "You taught me a valuable lesson years ago about what it means to invest, to take things step by step. I was once a shoe-shining boy, and now I have my own company. So with this $5 million I believe I have the right to demand a share of the profits, right?" The businessman looked up, asking the young man how much he wanted. The reply he received shocked him, $1. Somewhere along life's journey, you may also encounter a boy shining shoes and a businessman like the characters in this story. Though he was just a poor child, living a life of struggle and hardship, he shone with the spirit to rise against adversity. The reward for his extraordinary determination was a fateful encounter with a businessman who, through his kindness, found a true friend he never expected could help him overcome his later challenges. Kindness given creates kindness returned. When generosity is offered to someone in need, its value becomes truly significant. There's a saying, "A morsel in hunger is worth a bundle when full," emphasizing this very point. A shoe-shining kit worth $90 from that hungry boy transformed into $500 million when he grew up. The right kindness at the right moment can change the trajectory of a life. Much like the rain that falls in drought. Though it may seem small, it is invaluable. Therefore, human connection is the greatest gift life gives us. Make sure to hit that subscribe button so you won't miss out on more valuable videos.